Hey everyone, welcome to the realm of legends. I'm Six Path Weeb, and you're tuned into the ultimate hub for anime alternate realities. Today's fanfic deep dive explores a thrilling twist in the Naruto universe. What if Naruko was born with the Rinne-Sharingan? Get ready to explore a reimagined world where divine power collides with raw potential, and the story takes a turn no one saw coming. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. A Tale of the God Tree and the Journey of Peace. 1,000 years ago, a celestial traveler arrived on Earth in search of the legendary fruit of the God Tree. This visitor was Otsutsuki Kaguya, a mysterious being from another world. When she descended upon a peaceful village in the land of ancestors, the people welcomed her with curiosity and kindness. Over time, Kaguya grew fond of the villagers and became intrigued by the strength and compassion of humanity. She was introduced to their emperor, Tenji, who was equally fascinated by the gentle traveler from beyond the stars. As trust grew between them, Kaguya revealed that she was the guardian of the God Tree, a sacred tree of immense energy. But Tenji, unable to grasp the truth, doubted her words. Concerned by his disbelief, Kaguya gently erased his memory, realizing it was too soon to reveal such knowledge. To remain close to the tree, Kaguya chose to become one of Tenji's companions. Over time, their bond deepened, and she became hopeful about a peaceful life. Eventually, Kaguya became pregnant, and a calm period settled over the land. However, peace was disrupted when a neighboring region known as the Land of That grew suspicious of Kaguya's origin. To avoid conflict, Emperor Tenji issued a decree urging his people to respect foreign emissaries, but tensions still rose. Fearing for Kaguya's safety, her trusted companion Ino, a kind-hearted young attendant, helped her flee. The two sought shelter in the wilderness, spending their days speaking of the God Tree and the mysteries surrounding it. Ino revealed that the tree was revered by their people and was never to be touched due to its powerful energy. Kaguya, intrigued and inspired by the tree's mystery, dreamed of its strength. She and Ino journeyed far to escape those who pursued them. As Kaguya's pregnancy progressed, Ino noticed her growing weaker. In a selfless act of loyalty, Ino shielded Kaguya during a confrontation, sacrificing herself to protect her dear friend and the unborn children. This loss deeply affected Kaguya. With a heavy heart, she turned to the only solution she believed could protect the world. She partook of the God Tree's fruit. Her heart was still set on peace, even if the power she gained was immense. What Kaguya did not realize was that her actions awakened the spirit of the God Tree. With her new strength, she calmed the lands by casting a peaceful illusion, the infinite Tsukiyomi, upon humanity to halt conflict. Eventually, she released many from the illusion and erased their memories to preserve harmony. Those she freed began to revere her as the rabbit goddess, Usagi no Megami. In time, Kaguya gave birth to twin daughters, Hagoromo and Hamura. However, as the years passed, the overwhelming energy from the God Tree began to cloud her thoughts, and her kind nature started to fade. The power she once used for peace began to alter her heart, distancing her from humanity. This change stirred a spirit within her, the will of the God Tree, which began to take control. Kaguya transformed into a vast creature of nature and energy, embodying the spirit's full strength. Alarmed, her daughters Hagoromo and Hamura rose to calm the great force that had overtaken their mother. Though it was a difficult journey, they eventually used their combined strength to contain the spirit's energy. They sealed it into a celestial body, what would become known as the moon, hoping to prevent its return. Before being fully contained, the spirit left behind a mysterious remnant, a being that appeared like a human but was entirely unique, hinting that its influence might one day return. Hagoromo, now the caretaker of peace, remained on Earth while Hamura went to the moon to watch over the seal. To ensure the spirit's power would never be misused again, Hagoromo divided its energy into 9 forms, creating the tailed beasts, or Bijou. These creatures, each with their own spirit and strength, lived quietly in the world. Hagoromo, who came to be known as the Sage of Six Paths, guided the Bijou with wisdom and compassion. He taught humanity about harmony and the true essence of chakra, forming a belief system known as Ninshu. He had 2 children, Endora and Ashura. Endora inherited powerful eyes known as the Sharingan, while Ashura gained the gift of nurturing life through wood release. When the time came for Hagoromo to pass on his teachings, he chose Ashura to lead, believing in his kind heart. Endora, feeling overlooked, grew bitter, and this sorrow gave rise to conflict between their descendants, the Uchiha and Senju clans. Centuries passed, and the world changed. Though the tailed beasts chose to remain distant from human affairs, some clans sought to control them, believing their power could end war. This led to efforts to capture and seal the bijou, hoping to achieve peace through strength. This path continued until a visionary leader, Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage of Konohagakure, offered a peaceful solution: to respectfully bring the tailed beasts together in an agreement that honored their individuality, forging a new hope for lasting harmony. And so, the legacy of the God Tree, the sacrifices of the past, and the dreams of peace continued, shaping the world that would one day welcome a new heroine, Naruko Uzumaki, a young girl destined to inspire peace and understanding with the same light that once shone through the stars. The world had long known of the remarkable strength of a certain individual, someone who stood out not only for her powerful abilities, but also for her rare mastery of the wood style, a technique unseen since the days of Ashura. The leaders of the great shinobi nations were eager to harness such a rare power, hoping it could strengthen the peace and stability of their regions. This individual was also known as a Jinchuriki, a person entrusted with a powerful spirit within. There had been 3 major shinobi world conflicts throughout history, each one more intense than the last. The third of these wars concluded with the actions of Namikaze Minato, the 4th Hokage of Konohagakure, who earned great respect for his swift and decisive actions on the battlefield, earning the title of the Yellow Flash. Minato's success brought him recognition as one of the most admired leaders of his time, and it was shortly after the end of the war that the mantle of Hokage was passed to him by the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Today was October 10th, a day that was meant to be joyous but quickly became one of the most challenging in Konoha's history. The cause of this turmoil was the sudden appearance of a massive 9-tailed fox near the outskirts of the village. No one could have predicted its arrival, it had appeared within seconds. The spirit wasn't without a host. In fact, its previous host, Uzumaki Kushina, had just given birth and was now resting in the hospital. Despite her fatigue, Kushina stretched out her arms, longing to hold her child. "Please, I want my baby," she pleaded softly, her eyes filled with emotion. The doctor immediately handed the newborn to her. Kushina smiled the moment she felt the warmth of her child close to her. "Hi, my little Naruko," she whispered lovingly. The infant responded with a soft cry. "Shh. It's okay. Mommy's here. I'll always be by your side," Kushina soothed, and Naruko calmed in her arms. The love Kushina felt in that moment was overwhelming. Though she had suffered much loss in her life, including the destruction of her clan, all of that seemed distant now as she held her child close. Kushina cherished the fact that Naruko had inherited her red hair. Though she would have been equally proud if her daughter had Minato's golden locks, seeing her reflection in Naruko gave her an added sense of connection. "Kushina, I know how much you want to hold her, and you will again, but we need to leave now," said Sarutobi Biwako, wife of the retired Hokage. Reluctantly, Kushina nodded and gently handed Naruko back to the doctor. "I understand. Please. Just take care of her," she said with quiet urgency. Biwako quickly interrupted her before she could say more. "Kushina," she called, firm but understanding. Kushina knew she was still too weak to protect Naruko herself, but she couldn't shake the desire to stay close to her daughter. After changing into more suitable clothing, Kushina moved as quickly as she could manage. She didn't mind the presence of Biwako and the doctor, she trusted them, and more importantly, she needed to keep Naruko nearby. "Let's go," Biwako said, motioning her out of the room. The trio left the building, intent on finding a secure location. Outside, the village was in complete turmoil. The shinobi of Konoha were doing everything in their power to protect their home and loved ones from the massive 9-tailed fox. "Hold on. The 4th Hokage will arrive any moment. Just hold it back until then," a high-ranking shinobi called out, trying to rally the defenders. The beast's power was immense, and the shinobi struggled to keep it at bay, using all kinds of techniques and strategies. The higher-ranking warriors could slow it momentarily, but nothing seemed strong enough to stop it. The goal now was to protect the village and its people at all costs. After several intense minutes, a great puff of smoke appeared on the battlefield. All eyes turned to see a giant toad with a familiar figure standing atop its head. "It's the 4th Hokage." Many of the shinobi cheered. A tense silence followed as the massive creature faced off with the enormous fox. Minato, standing on the back of his summoned Gamabunta, prepared for the battle ahead. "Gamabunta, are you ready?" Minato asked. "Ready? No one's ever really ready for something like this," the giant toad replied with a hint of concern. Minato smiled calmly. "I need your help, old friend. We must protect the village and my family. I don't yet know how the spirit was released, but that can wait. Right now, we stand our ground." Gamabunta sighed. All right. But you owe me after this." He grumbled. Back in the village, Kushina, Biwako, and the doctor continued moving toward safety. They knew time was critical. The presence of the masked figure who had summoned the beast still loomed as a threat. Suddenly, a mysterious individual appeared before them. He wore a black cloak and an orange mask that concealed his identity. The tension in the air was unmistakable. Kushina instinctively stepped closer to her daughter, her eyes alert. What was that? Biwako exclaimed in alarm, completely caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a stranger she hadn't sensed approaching. The man in the orange mask didn't give her a chance to respond further. In a flash, he vanished and reappeared behind her, leaving her stunned. Startled by the man's sudden arrival and what had just occurred, Kushina instinctively positioned herself to protect both herself and her newborn daughter. Even the doctor, despite not being a fighter, braced herself with what little resolve she had. But the man moved swiftly, interrupting all further reactions with his strange techniques. Who are you, and what do you want? Kushina demanded, her voice trembling slightly. She was still recovering from childbirth, and her strength had waned after the QB had been extracted from her. Her primary concern now was her daughter, Naruko. Fortunately, the child appeared unharmed. Kushina's eyes widened in horror when she saw the masked man now holding her sleeping daughter. Acting on pure instinct and motherly determination, she launched toward him with unexpected strength, desperate to reclaim her child. Give me back my daughter, she cried out, striking at him, but her attacks missed entirely, passing through him like he wasn't fully there. It was then that Kushina understood what was happening. You're using a time-space technique, she said in disbelief, recognizing the advanced ability. Minato, her husband, used a similar technique, though not at this advanced level. But fear quickly gave way to determination. Nothing mattered more than her daughter's safety. I'll return her soon, but for now, I need her as a diversion. You're welcome to follow if you want, the man stated calmly before leaping away, traveling from rooftop to rooftop. Kushina chased after him without hesitation, ignoring the pain coursing through her body. Though worried for her friend Biwako, Kushina's thoughts were consumed by her daughter. She didn't understand what the masked man meant by using Naruko as a diversion, but she wouldn't allow her child to be used for anything. The masked figure slowed slightly, leading Kushina outside the village. She didn't realize he was deliberately allowing her to follow. His plan was simple: lure both mother and child away. Both mother and daughter. This works even better, the masked man thought, aware that Kushina, having just given birth and lost the QB, posed little threat now. His goal was distraction, to divert Minato, who was still confronting the QB alongside Gamabunta. Kushina fought to keep pace, but her chakra reserves were nearly empty, and fatigue from childbirth was setting in. Eventually, they reached a clearing. The man stopped and turned to face her, still cradling the sleeping infant. Enraged and determined, Kushina lunged forward again. But before she could reach him, the ground trembled nearby. She glanced left and saw Minato standing atop Gamabunta, still battling the rampaging QB. From her perspective, it seemed the great toad was absorbing the brunt of the attacks. Suddenly, she heard Naruko crying. She turned in horror just as the masked man tossed the baby into the air and vanished into a swirling vortex of energy. With lightning-fast reflexes, Kushina dove forward and caught Naruko safely. She landed hard on her knees, scraping them against the dirt, but she paid no attention to the pain. Cradling her daughter, she whispered gently, "Shh, Mommy's here. Everything is okay now." Her voice calmed Naruko, who quickly fell back to sleep. Her relief was short-lived. Another tremor rippled through the ground, and a massive cloud of smoke billowed into the sky. Gamabunta had disappeared, signaling that the battle had shifted. A moment later, Minato appeared nearby, clearly worn from the battle, his clothes slightly torn. Kushina called out, "Minato." Her voice trembled with worry, not for herself, but for their daughter. Minato turned, stunned to see his wife and child there. "Kushina? Why are you here?" he shouted, then fell silent as he saw Naruko for the first time. For a brief moment, joy lit his eyes, but the threat approaching quickly overshadowed it. They didn't have much time. "Can you reseal the QB into yourself?" Minato asked urgently, though he hated to ask. Kushina shook her head, her voice full of sorrow. "I can't. My body's too weak. I won't survive it if we try again. The strain. It's too much." Before either could say more, a mighty roar cut through the air. The QB was bearing down on them once again. With no time to lose, Minato used his teleportation technique to move his family to safety. From a new vantage point, Minato saw they were still being pursued. "We're running out of options," he said grimly, glancing toward Naruko. "No. You can't mean that, Kushina whispered, understanding instantly. She's just a baby, Minato. I know, he said, sadness in his eyes. But if we don't do something, the village is at risk. He threw another marked kunai and teleported them again, evading another attack. The Kyuubi roared in frustration, clearly under some kind of manipulation and growing more agitated. Minato's expression was resolute. We have to seal it into Naruko, he said. Kushina protested silently, but she knew it was the only way. They worked quickly. Kushina laid Naruko gently on a cushion surrounded by a hastily drawn seal, placing protective candles around her. Despite everything, the child continued sleeping peacefully. Nearby, Minato struggled against the Kyuubi, trying to keep it at bay. With a final look at their daughter, Kushina sprang into action. Yellow chakra chains erupted from her back as she shouted, Minato, I'll restrain it. Finish the seal. Minato nodded in understanding, and together, they moved to protect both their daughter and their village, no matter the cost to themselves. Fuinjutsu, Shiki Fujin. Sealing technique, Reaper Seal. As Minato spoke the final words of the technique, a towering, ethereal figure appeared behind him. This spirit, known only to those trained in sealing arts, began to draw Minato's spirit forward. The figure wrapped its arm in prayer beads and began chanting in a language lost to time, until a glowing seal shimmered into existence on its arm. The spirit thrust its arm toward Minato's spirit, allowing him the moment he needed to begin the sealing. Acting swiftly, Minato chose the Kyuubi as the target. The spirit reached for the Kyuubi's essence, grasping it tightly. The mighty creature resisted fiercely, but Kushina, using her chakra chains, held it firmly in place. The combined efforts of the sealing spirit and Kushina's unyielding strength made it difficult for the Kyuubi to break free. Once the spirit had what it needed, it searched for the final destination for the seal. Its gaze fell upon a peacefully sleeping baby, surrounded by glowing candles, Naruko. Upon recognizing the intricate seal marked beneath her, the spirit confirmed the choice. The Kyuubi's energy was drawn toward her. Sensing its fate, the Kyuubi made a final desperate attempt to escape. It reached out with a massive claw toward the infant. But before it could reach her, Minato and Kushina intervened, halting the attack with all their strength. Though the effort exhausted them, their will never faltered. With their last strength, they crawled to their daughter's side. Kushina was the first to speak, her voice tender despite her fatigue. Sweet Naruko. I'm so sorry for all of this, she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. I hope one day you can understand why we did this. And I hope you can forgive us for not being there as you grow. Always remember, Mommy loves you, so much. And we will always be watching over you. Minato gently placed his hand beside his daughter, his voice filled with emotion. Naruko. This is your father. I wish we had more time. I wish we could have watched you grow. You're already our little hero, and I believe this village will one day see that too. You'll be strong, kind, and loved. I believe in you, my daughter. As the sealing concluded, Minato's spirit was drawn into the sealing spirit. Kushina, overwhelmed with emotion and energy, closed her eyes beside him. A few quiet moments later, Hiruzen Sarutobi arrived, his expression grave. Alongside him stood a young man with a masked face and one eye concealed, Hatake Kakashi. The scene before them left them momentarily speechless. Kakashi stepped forward, tears welling in his eye. Sensei, he whispered, kneeling beside his mentor and Kushina. Hiruzen placed a hand on Kakashi's shoulder. Kakashi, take them to the village. I'll care for Naruko, he instructed. Kakashi nodded solemnly, gently lifting the couple, then vanished into the night, heading for the village hospital. Hiruzen turned his gaze to the sleeping child, marveling at how peaceful she remained amidst such chaos. He picked her up with great care. She's already endured so much, he murmured to himself. With a weary sigh, he too vanished, heading to the Hokage Tower with Naruko in his arms. Back at the village gates, Kakashi arrived with the heroes of the night. Shinobi gathered, their expressions filled with concern and confusion. Seeing their Hokage and his wife carried in the arms of a comrade silenced them all. Kakashi finally spoke. There's not much I can say. But know this, our Yondaime gave everything to protect the village and seal the Kyuubi. As he spoke, Mido Gai stepped forward, silent for once, offering his strength to help carry the fallen. Kakashi nodded in gratitude. Together, they made their way to the hospital, followed by every shinobi present, paying quiet respect to their leader and his wife. That night would forever be remembered as the day the Kyuubi came to the Hidden Leaf Village. But more importantly, it would be remembered as the day a young girl, Naruko Uzumaki, became the vessel of hope and strength for the village's future. In the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen gently placed Naruko into a crib prepared for emergencies. He paused at the door and addressed the Anbu guarding it. "No one is to enter this room," he ordered firmly. "Hi," the guard replied, standing at attention. As Hiruzen left, thoughts swirled in his mind. There was peace for now, but a question remained: who had caused this, and why? While the people of Konohagakure believed the appearance of the Kyuubi and the loss of their peace to be among the greatest challenges they had faced in a long time, something even more mysterious was unfolding, deep within the body of a newborn girl named Uzumaki Naruko. No one could have anticipated this unusual phenomenon. When the Kyuubi was sealed inside Naruko, a radiant light burst forth, not only from Kurama, the Kyuubi, but from all of the tailed beasts scattered across the world. It was this same light that stirred every other Bijou, even Kurama, who was supposed to remain dormant due to the sealing process. Kurama's eyes widened as he noticed his tails glowing, the light spreading through the sealed space like a sunrise. So, this child. This is truly unexpected, Kurama thought, resting his head on his paws, patiently waiting for what he sensed was about to come. Meanwhile, in the quiet village of Sunagakure, a red-haired child slept soundly, an unusual occurrence, as this child, Gaara, was the host of the one-tail, Shukaku. Normally, the Ichibi would disturb Gaara's rest, whispering constantly, but ever since the Kyuubi's sealing in Naruko, a change had taken place. Shukaku's tail lit up, and for the first time, the young boy found peace in his dreams. The light within the seal grew so strong that it illuminated the entire space before the Ichibi gently faded away, taking a portion of Gaara's chakra with it. Elsewhere, in Kumagakure, a young woman with long, blonde hair wrapped in bandages walked with quiet strength. She, too, carried a tailed beast, the two tails, Matatabi. As the same radiant light began to shine from her tails, Matatabi spoke tenderly, though her voice would likely go unheard by her host. "Goodbye, kitten. I'll miss you dearly. Take care, and may your life now shine brighter." Moments later, the woman collapsed from sudden chakra loss, and the village's elite guards rushed to her aid, ensuring she was safe and quickly bringing her to medical care. All around the world, similar events were unfolding. Wherever a tailed beast resided, their tails shimmered with light before they quietly disappeared from their hosts, who would then fall into unconsciousness due to their depleted energy. This pattern continued in sequence, one bijou after another, each vanishing an hour apart. From the three tails Isabu in Kirigakure to the four tails Son Goku in Iwagakure, and then to the five tails Kokuo, the six tails Seiken, and the seven tails Chomei, each host experienced the same gentle departure of their tailed beasts. Chomei's final words echoed softly. "May your journey be filled with wonder, little one. Farewell, Fu. Be well and soar free." Lastly, the eight tails Gyuki left the side of Killer Bee, another shinobi of Kumagakure. As he collapsed, his elder brother, the Raikage, caught him in time and ensured he remained unharmed. Only one tailed beast did not leave its host, Kurama. The great Kyuubi rested calmly, reflecting on the words of the Sage of Six Paths. "One day, someone will come. That person will be your redemption, someone with the power to bring change. Be patient, and do not bring harm to that person. I believe they will be even stronger than I once was." These words had long remained in the hearts of the tailed beasts. None of them, however, expected to experience such a transformation together, or for it all to lead them to a single newborn child, Naruko. Within the seal inside Naruko, all nine tailed beasts stood in silence, gazing at Kurama. Gyuki spoke first, voicing the thoughts of all. "So, it has finally come to pass." Kurama nodded. "Indeed. I never imagined our new host would be a newborn girl." Before more could be said, another brilliant light enveloped them, this time, not just from their tails, but from their entire beings. The pure white light drew all of them together in a powerful embrace, impossible to resist. As they were pulled closer, the light expanded, and in mere seconds, they were absorbed by its warmth, losing awareness as they merged. All of this happened deep within the seal inside Naruko, unnoticed by anyone in the village. The massive swell of chakra was contained by the seal, shielding the world from the astonishing phenomenon. The brilliant light grew for an entire hour before finally fading. And when it did, a new seal was completed, the very first seal ever created by the sage himself, now reawakened. The tailed beasts were not gone, they had reunited. They became one once more, just as they were before they were divided. And now, this unified being, the 10 tails, rested within Uzumaki Naruko. A joyful laugh echoed from within her slumber, followed by a voice filled with awe and power. I have returned. Let's see if the world is ready for me once again. Naruko had not only become the host of all the tailed beasts, but now held within her the legendary form of their original unity, the majestic and powerful 10 tails. A week after the birth of Uzumaki Naruko. A week had passed since the birth of Uzumaki Naruko, and in that short time, many changes had begun to ripple across the ninja world. Some of these changes remained hidden from the public eye, while others quickly became the topic of widespread discussion. After the recent disturbance involving the Kyuubi and Konohagakure, news of the event spread quickly across the lands. Some of the other hidden villages considered taking advantage of what they perceived as Konoha's vulnerable state. Iwagakure, in particular, began making preliminary plans for action. However, they abruptly halted these efforts when, quite unexpectedly, both of their Jinchuriki fell into a deep, unexplained sleep. Their intention had been to rely on their bijou hosts in any potential conflict, but now they found themselves facing an unforeseen complication. Unknown to Iwagakure, similar situations were unfolding in nearly every major village, and even in some of the smaller ones. Jinchuriki across the nations were falling into comas, and despite efforts to revive them, nothing seemed to work. Though medical teams attempted gentle means to awaken them, they remained unresponsive. This caused significant concern among the village leaders. The Jinchuriki represented a substantial part of each village's strength, and their sudden and unexplained condition left everyone puzzled and concerned. Despite running numerous tests, none of the experts could find a clear cause. The Jinchuriki weren't suffering from chakra depletion, nor did they seem to be under duress from their bijou, which was rare in itself. There were no signs of illness or any external factors that might explain their condition. A week later, just as mysteriously as they had fallen unconscious, the Jinchuriki began to awaken. This occurred quietly and independently in each village, without the others knowing of their counterparts' recoveries. When they awoke, village officials quickly questioned them in hopes of uncovering what had happened. However, not a single Jinchuriki could recall anything unusual. The only shared experience was a sense of lingering fatigue they couldn't explain. Those with the skills to explore their inner worlds, known as mindscapes, did so, only to find their bijou in a dormant state, quietly resting behind their seals. Attempts to communicate or rouse them met with no success. This unexpected stillness from the bijou puzzled their hosts. Once the village leaders were informed of these developments, most decided to drop their investigations, chalking it up to an unusual but ultimately harmless occurrence. Though some remained cautious, especially regarding the host of the Ichibi, most leaders resumed business as usual. The Kazekage, however, took additional precautions, instructing his best sealing experts to reinforce the seal of the young red-haired Ichibi host, a quiet boy marked by the kanji for love on his forehead. Although sealing knowledge was limited in Sunagakure, an experienced elder helped as best she could. Interestingly, the boy seemed more rested than he ever had been, as his inner companion, usually restless and disruptive, had finally allowed him peace. Like the others, his bijou remained unusually quiet and calm. But while these events quietly affected the world's Jinchuriki, one individual was not asleep at all. In Konohagakure. While the rest of the ninja world was adjusting to the sudden quiet among its bijou hosts, the newly born Uzumaki Naruko, only a few weeks old, was experiencing challenges of her own in the village hidden in the leaves. As Konoha remained in a state of heightened alert, the Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, had resumed leadership amidst considerable unease. News had spread quickly that a new Jinchuriki had been born in the village. Unfortunately for Hiruzen, the identity of the child had been leaked, though only a select few had known of it. He had suspicions about who might be responsible, but no proof. The result was an increase in unrest among the village's population. Many struggled to accept the presence of the Kyuubi's host. In response, Hiruzen implemented a strict new law to protect Naruko and ensure peace. Anyone who speaks of the Kyuubi or Uzumaki Naruko's status as its host shall face immediate and serious consequences, Hiruzen declared, his voice firm with authority and resolve. Following that announcement, public conversation around the matter stopped entirely. Although many residents still held private doubts and worries, they abided by the law out of respect for the Hokage and his leadership. Hiruzen was one of the village's most respected figures, and no one wanted to challenge his authority. Despite the tensions, Naruko remained unaware of the world's judgment. Her early days were quiet, but behind the scenes, she was already becoming a key figure in a story far larger than anyone could imagine. With Naruko. The young girl, only 2 weeks old, had been entrusted to the village orphanage for care. Despite the wishes of Sarutobi Hiruzen and several clan leaders to adopt her into their homes, many of their motives were questionable. Some saw her unique abilities as a means to enhance their own influence, especially since she carried the spirit of a powerful being, one that had not been matched in strength. It was these very ambitions that compelled the third Hokage to place Naruko in the care of the orphanage, although he did so with a heavy heart. Still, he made it explicitly clear to the caretakers, Naruko was under his protection. If anything happens to Naruko, you will be held fully responsible, he had warned them in a firm but measured tone. As caretakers, their duty was to provide a safe and nurturing environment for children, and this responsibility was no different. They nodded quickly, knowing the weight of a directive issued by their leader. Whether they agreed with it or not, disobeying was not an option. At the time, young Naruko, with her vibrant red hair, was peacefully asleep. Despite her age, she rested frequently. Though she cried on occasion, it was never excessive. Her caretakers assumed she was merely quiet by nature and, due to existing biases, paid her less attention than they should have. What no one around her realized, however, was that Naruko was experiencing something extraordinary. A force within her, a mystical entity, was continuously easing her pain and discomfort. Her chakra system, still developing as with all newborns, was under strain from this mysterious energy. Each time her chakra network expanded, it would briefly falter, only to regenerate stronger than before. This process was invisible to those around her and unknown even to Naruko herself. But there was one who knew, the being sealed within her. It provided her with energy, pushing her growth beyond that of a normal infant, while ensuring she remained comfortable and safe. Although the entity itself was incomplete and waiting to regain its full strength, it focused much of its attention on nurturing Naruko, preparing her for a future yet to unfold. Unaware of this internal transformation, Naruko was simply viewed as another child at the orphanage. She was fed sparingly and received only the minimum attention necessary. Her caretaker's reluctance to bond with her was more out of lingering fear and misunderstanding than malice. Yet, Naruko remained resilient, protected, if silently, by the force within her. Meanwhile, in a hidden cave. Elsewhere in a secluded mountain cave, a secretive gathering took place. Figures, both present in person and via projection, stood in a wide circle. The few physically there wore distinctive black cloaks adorned with red cloud patterns. Two of them could be clearly seen, one with long blonde hair tied in a ponytail, the other more reserved in appearance. Both wore wide straw hats that partially concealed their faces. A commanding voice rang out from a masked individual, his lone visible eye shining with a crimson hue unique to a powerful bloodline. "Kakuzu, Datara, please be silent," he said calmly, yet with authority. The two complied, refraining from further debate. Though their interests differed, one focused on wealth, the other on artistry, they both knew better than to disobey the speaker. Another voice spoke up, asking for a report. The response came from an unusual individual with plant-like features and a split-colored appearance. This being, known as Zetsu, relayed unsettling news: Konoha still stands. The plan has not succeeded as expected. "That's acceptable," the masked leader replied. "We've suffered a delay, but not defeat. Our focus will now shift. We must observe the new guardian of the Kyuubi carefully. Zetsu, Nagato, and I will continue the search. The plan continues, only slightly altered." The group slowly began to vanish, leaving only a few behind. Zetsu, disappearing into the earth, muttered a thought that echoed in the silent cave: "We must find what we need." Kumagakure. 2 years later, a loud exclamation shattered the silence in the tallest tower of Kumagakure. The village's Reikage, a towering and strong leader, had just heard troubling news. "What do you mean they're gone?" he asked, clearly shocked. Before him stood two of his top shinobi, Killer Bee and Ni Yugito. They had just reported something unprecedented: their bijou, the mystical being sealed within them, had vanished without warning. Yugito stepped forward. "Reikage-sama, I don't have an explanation. I woke up and sensed nothing. My connection to the Nibi is gone, and the seal has disappeared as well. I'm unharmed, but the power, it's just no longer there." Killer Bee nodded in agreement. "Same with me. I haven't been able to access the Hachibi's chakra for a long time. We've reported this before, but now even the seal is gone." Reikage frowned deeply, his concern evident. "This must not leave the tower. Not yet. We will investigate. Keep this confidential." Unseen by them, Zetsu was listening from the shadows, his mind spinning with questions. He could not sense either of the bijou within the hosts. They had truly vanished. This same phenomenon was happening across all the elemental nations. Each village's Jinchuriki had reported a sudden loss of their bijou's presence. Some, like the child in Sunagakur, had tried reaching out to the spirits within them, only to be met with silence. Medical examinations confirmed what the hosts felt: the seals had disappeared. At first, each cage attempted to keep the situation private. But when intelligence leaks revealed that other villages were affected as well, meetings were held. It was confirmed, the bijou were gone from every village. What of Konoha? One elder asked in a council meeting. Do we know their Jinchuriki, and has the kyubi vanished from them as well? The Raikage responded with uncertainty. We do not know who Konoha's host is. But if this is a global occurrence, it's safe to assume the same has happened there. Eventually, the villages decided to share the truth with their people. They explained that the mystical creatures once feared had left, and the individuals who had once hosted them were now free. The announcement brought peace. Former Jinchuriki, long burdened by mistrust, were now met with compassion and respect. It wasn't a complete transformation, but it was a beginning. All except for one village. In Konoha, no such announcement had been made. Little Naruko, now 2 years old, remained unaware of the world changing around her, and the incredible strength growing quietly inside her heart. Kanahagakure no Sato, council meeting. What do you mean all the tailed beasts are gone, Hokage-sama? Came the concerned voice of Koharu, an elder member of the Konoha council. Everyone present in the room was taken aback by what they had just heard from their leader: the tailed beasts had vanished. This information had only reached him minutes earlier, passed on by one of his former students and the village's current intelligence leader. The man with white hair, Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, had returned urgently after learning about these events across the elemental nations. Upon hearing the news, he immediately returned home to inform the Hokage, prompting the current emergency meeting, as Konoha had not been aware of the developments in the other villages until now. The primary reason for their delay in discovery was due to Naruko's age. At just 2 years old, she was too young to understand or articulate what was happening around her. Just as I said, Koharu. Kumagakure, Iwagakure, and every other village that once had a Jinchuriki have reported that their tailed beasts disappeared. According to Jiraiya, it occurred several months ago, though the news only reached their senior leadership recently, stated the third Hokage, his voice calm but serious. And what about our Jinchuriki? Has she also lost the beast? Inquired another elder, a man with his right side wrapped in bandages. Hiruzen, though displeased with the implication of Naruko being seen merely as a tool, kept his emotions contained. We will know soon, Danzo. Jiraiya went to check on young Naruko just before this meeting began, the Hokage responded calmly. At that moment, the doors opened, and all eyes turned toward the entrance. Jiraiya stepped in and quietly approached the Hokage, whispering a few words. Hiruzen's eyes widened slightly, though he composed himself quickly. Jiraiya then stepped back, taking a place behind his mentor. Letting out a thoughtful breath, Hiruzen addressed the council. It appears that we too no longer have a Jinchuriki. The kyubi has vanished just like the others. The seal that once existed on Naruko is no longer present, and not even the faintest trace remains. One of the civilian council members reacted abruptly. Does that mean the beast is truly gone? Instead of an answer, the room fell into an uneasy silence. Hiruzen's stern gaze swept over the room, and his voice now carried a powerful, commanding tone. My law still stands. Let no one forget their responsibilities or the authority this village operates under, he declared. The atmosphere was heavy with the seriousness of his warning, supported by the formidable presence of Jiraiya, who shared his concern for how Naruko had been referred to. Spread the truth throughout the village. Just as the other villages have informed their people, we must do the same. Any distortion of this message will be dealt with firmly, Hiruzen instructed as he formally ended the meeting. As the room emptied, Danzo disappeared quietly, deep in thought. How could this have happened? She could have grown into a capable shinobi with the right guidance, he considered. Others left the room with less utilitarian thoughts, many hopeful for Naruko's future without considering her a tool. News quickly spread, with people in each village gradually coming to terms with what had happened. In contrast, Konoha faced a unique challenge. While former hosts in other villages began to experience better lives, Naruko's situation became more complex. The root of the issue lay in how some of the villagers interpreted the news. Though the message was delivered as Hiruzen intended, some misunderstood it. Whispers began to circulate. If all the beasts are gone, why did I see the one from Konoha yesterday? Are we the only village still cursed? These doubts led to widespread misunderstanding. Some began referring to Naruko unfairly, believing her presence signified a lingering misfortune. The term curse of Konoha began to be used by those who couldn't distinguish between the child and the power that once resided within her. Despite this, Hiruzen maintained his protective decree, hoping time would help people heal and learn to see Naruko for who she truly was, a child, not a vessel. He believed that some among his people were already coming to understand the difference, and that with patience, the village could move forward. Deep down, he knew that if harm ever came to young Naruko, he would ensure justice in a way that upheld the peace and dignity of the village. Unknown location. In a shadowed cavern, a circle of transparent figures stood together. This emergency gathering had been called by a plant-like entity. "Zetsu, why have you summoned us so urgently?" asked a long-haired figure, his color indistinguishable due to the holographic projection. "We've discovered something critical," Zetsu began, speaking in alternating tones between his two halves. "All of the tailed beasts have vanished. I confirmed it myself. There are no remaining signs of their presence in their former hosts. I will continue searching, though we have no clear starting point since the former hosts are still alive." The announcement stunned the group into silence. "What? How is that even possible?" exclaimed a masked figure with a single visible eye marked by the Sharingan, his voice rising in disbelief. Zetsu remained silent until the man calmed slightly. Then the masked figure spoke again. "This changes everything. We must locate them before taking any further steps. Search everywhere, leave no stone unturned. We need answers." With that, the projections vanished, one by one, leaving the cavern once again empty and still. Dear YouTube family, that's all for now. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, it really means a lot. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time, stay awesome. Warm regards. 6 Path Weeb.